Welcome to another video at UniGuitar. My name is Bruno and today I'm going to give a lesson on one of the 24 progressive lessons Opus 31 by Fernando Sor, namely the number 4. In this video I'll make a short introduction to the style of the music by Fernando Sor, an analysis of the work in terms of structure, harmony and texture, namely counterpoint, and finally I would like to discuss ideas to create a nice, cohesive and interesting interpretation that you might find useful if this kind of music interests you. If you're curious to know why Fernando Sor is often called Beethoven of the guitar, click right here to find out. Now, let's get started. When we look at the score of Opus 31 number 4 by Sor, which you can download using the link in the description, we see a short piece written in 3 very distinct layers that move along in a moderate tempo, andante. This kind of texture reminds me of the contrapuntal music of earlier periods, in which voices are intrinsically connected but yet independent. This is a style that Fernando Sor appreciates very much, as we can see in other works composed by him, such as Les Adieux Opus 21 or Variations Opus 9, where voices intersect with each other or move in pairs. What I find interesting here is the attempt of Fernando Sor to transport the vocal music into the guitar repertoire. As you may know, Sor was a singer himself. If you would sing all different parts separately, you could perhaps say that these melodies were retrieved from a choral. The harmonies utilized the contrapuntal syncopes and harmonic rhythm are also a recollection of earlier music features. Sor brings the counterpoint to the 19th century and bonds 2 styles together when employing dotted rhythms that are typical of military music, a style which Sor was also very familiar with, the latter being more just a small quote, as it only appears 3 times in this piece. Nonetheless, we should make sure that this dotted rhythm is performed with accuracy, short and with attitude, avoiding to play it almost as a 16th note that would sound this way. We actually want it to sound like this. This piece is structured in 4 small parts of 8 measures, with similar framing and pattern that repeats. 1 phrase of 4 bars in ascending contour, and the second phrase that picks up from the last note of the previous phrase on the higher voice and descends until its end. It is also important to mention that all voices are equally relevant, even though sometimes one may be more static and less interesting. In my opinion, the challenge here is to manage what voices may stand out at certain moments. On the piano, for instance, voices may be assigned to both hands separately, while on the guitar, the volume, articulation and phrasing of all the voices present must be managed with solely our right hand. However, in some situations, articulation can be performed with the left hand as well. In order to get the best out of the music stratification of this Opus 31 number 4, I adjusted some fingerings that I believe to be more appropriate than the ones suggested in the sheet music. For example, on the 3rd measure, it is indeed easier to play the first chord on the first beat with open strings, but that brings a small voicing problem at the end of the bar. The note B of the middle voice will be damped by the B note of the top voice. And here I imagine a choir where 2 different parts sing the same note. I'd like to hear them overlapping. Something similar happens on bars 23 and 27, which represent the same idea but with different notes and rhythms. On bar 23, the harmony does and a melody. So here you could play the first chord with open strings, but then the D sharp of the melody would damp the B note of the accompaniment. So here I suggest to do just as bar number 3. At the end of the main theme we see 2 Bs belonging to different parts. And Sor's music is written in a very detailed way, so I believe this was meant to play actually 2 Bs at the same time. Just as a choral in which all voices end in 1 note in unison. One is open string, and the other one is on the 3rd string, 2 Bs. In this passage it is suggested to change position from here to here, but I think it would be actually nicer to try to play everything in one go. So I keep my 2nd finger on the G, and I play everything without changing position, like this. And here this is a bit awkward, but your third finger would be on the right string to move up to the next chord. This is a bit weird option, but this is the result. Particularly in polyphonic music, all voices are generally balanced among them, but I think it is also necessary to be able to detach certain voices according to their movement. I probably mentioned this in earlier videos, and this is of course a very personal choice, but you can decide which voice stands out by controlling the volume of a certain melodic part. On the example I just showed you, you can see clearly a voice that remains static, while the other one moves down on the scale towards a relevant note, an A sharp. Although I refer to the necessity of balancing all existent voices equally, in this case I would emphasize the melody that moves and control the volume produced by the upper melody. You could use the thumb to play the lower voice, or play it with the well-balanced I and M fingers, detaching the melody played by the index finger. And not like this. I find this very useful, and if you think your balance between voices lacks control, I've made a few exercises to develop this very important technique that aims to improve how much each voice sounds in comparison with its peers. Now that we are looking into this piece in so much detail, I'd like to present you some ideas that might seem to be pointless for being very detailed, but I think that art is in the small things. It's also very personal and therefore allows you to be distinct and have the opportunity to make an interpretation that is different than everybody else's. When playing appoggiaturas, I try to make sure that the resolving note or chord is softer than the preceding one. We can also emphasize the appoggiatura by playing a small crescendo towards the note that needs resolution. This will give some direction and life to the appoggiatura. When voices are led using the same string, this issue doesn't apply, as notes of the same part don't overlap with each other. Problem is when you must use two different strings for the same voice, especially open strings. I always try my best to avoid overlapping two notes that belong to the same part, because that would be the same as a singer singing two notes at the same time. So whenever you play open strings, you can either stop them with your left hand, right after playing the following note, or with your right hand using apoyando, rest stroke, or just by placing a free finger on that same string. It is also crucial to stop sympathetic notes that might disrupt the harmonic consonance of the following chord. For example, the B string activates the 6th string open. Stopping it could be done just by placing the thumb on the string that produced the unreached note, or by tapping it with the free finger of the left hand, depending on which one is available. Let me play for you the F sharp major chord without tapping the B string. And now the same, but I will place my thumb on the 6th string. In order to show you how to respect the right duration of the notes, I gathered two examples. The first one, the bar 15, we have a D major chord, and now afterwards an A7 chord. And here the tendency would be to lift all the fingers when playing the A7 chord. But actually the D note is a quarter note with dot, so it would last a little bit longer than other notes, like this. So I lift these two fingers, but the D I don't. Because this one has to be connected with C sharp. Instead of. As opposed to what I said before, stopping notes from ringing over other notes, sometimes we actually have to let them ring. And that what happens on the 4th bar counting from the end. We have D sharp and B. And these two notes have to ring for 2 beats while we play other two notes. This instead of. So here the B string does not ring. In polyphonic music it is of extreme importance to hold the notes so long as they're written and to keep them as consistent in volume and color as possible. That way you make sure that the polyphonic mesh can be appreciated in its entire fullness. And this small gem by Fernando Sor is a great and beautiful example that deserves such appreciation. Thank you for joining me here and to watch the video until the end. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe. It's for free and it would help immensely. This is it for now. I gotta go work on the next video and I hope to see you there. Ciao.